welcome everyone to another episode of Money Matters and More, presented in collaboration with mutual fund Sahi and the Times of India. I'm Smriti Jain, your host for this very important podcast on how millennials can navigate the financial landscape to make smart investment decisions. Joining us is Mr. Nilesh Shah. He is the Managing Director of Kotak Mutual Fund. He has also been part of several SEBI committees and is currently a part-time member of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Welcome, Mr. Shah. Thank you very much for taking out time for us.
Thank you, Smriti, for having me here.
Before we get into the main discussion topic, I'd like to understand from you how AMFI and the industry in general has, with its investor education initiatives, been catering to the very specific financial literacy needs of the millennials.
So essentially, if we see history of mutual funds in India, it started in 1960s with Unit Trust of India. And there was one version of mutual fund appropriate at that point of time with guaranteed return kind of concept. The real mutual fund industry started coming somewhere in the 90s with the introduction of SEBI. SEBI has drafted regulations, guidelines, but what was lacking was financial awareness. And that's where SEBI was kind enough to guide AMFI to launch mutual fund Sahi. Our whole purpose is to make people financially independent through better investment.
Right.
I think as Indians we all know how to save. आज भी घर में मम्मी के पल्लू में रुपया निकलता है.
Right.
But is that the best way to invest? There are so many women who do SIP with a roadside jeweler. 11 महीने पैसे देंगे 12वें महीने पे आपको दागिना मिलेगा. There are so many people who invest in Ponzi schemes in lure of higher return. There are so many people who trade in markets to make money and lose. So whenever we see outside of our window, we realize that people are not financially well educated. And hence, as an association, AMFI under the guidance of SEBI is trying to spread financial awareness by giving them ideas about basic financial concepts like asset allocation, regular investment, long-term investment, risks and return trade-off, and so on and so forth. Are we successful? Well, if we look at our past, now with 4.5 crore investors, we feel we are successful. If we look at our potential, we think we have barely scratched the surface. It's a journey and we have a long distance to cover.
So, listeners, today we are going to look at the very unique financial challenges and opportunities that millennials face. We are going to talk about how you can navigate the various distractions so that you come up with the most smart financial decisions for investment strategies, right? Nilesh, to kick off on our discussion, let's talk about financial habits, right? How do you think the digital age has shaped the financial habits of millennials?
So on the digital age, there is no information arbitrage. Today, there is artificial intelligence available which can analyze things and give it to you. There's social media where experts give and share their opinion. There is various websites available, media available. So there is no information arbitrage which I had when I started my career. As a fund manager, I used to get balance sheets probably 30 days ahead of my retail competitor. Today, there's no arbitrage. But today, the problem is different. There's so much of noise that people have become hyper.
Yes.
Something happens and you receive tons of email. So this digital age is fast-tracking information spread. But along with information, noise is also getting spread.
Right.
And it will be important for millennials to differentiate between facts and fiction.
And taking from what you're saying, there are so many distractions out there, and the attention span is very less to understand and absorb the knowledge that is there. So how do you think that this lack of attention span and these increasing distractions are actually impacting the financial decisions of millennials?
In every generation, the previous generation has found certain deficiencies or omissions or shortcomings. When I go and tell my daughter that your attention span is less, her response is, Dad, you are slow, become fast. You are still in a generation which wants to read through manual to figure out how to operate a mobile phone. And I just have to start. So I think it's unfair on my part to say whether their attention span is less or more. They know what they are doing. And as long as they are processing right information, albeit sometimes faster, sometimes slower, it's their choice. My recommendation is that over the years, basic principle of investing hasn't changed. Regular investment, well, that's the wisdom of little drops of water make an ocean.
Right.
Long-term investment, you don't grow a mango tree in less than 12 years. And asset allocation, don't put all eggs in one basket.
Right.
These principles haven't changed for millennials and they are not going to change for next millennial. Now, subject to these principles, if you want to take decision faster because you have ability to process information quickly, be my guest.
Right, right. But where do you bring in the financial focus so that you are able to make the right decision? How do you do that?
The best thing is education. Education will dispel darkness. Now, unfortunately, in our school college curriculum, we don't put enough focus on money. In fact, in many houses, parents don't disclose their financial position. हर पेरेंट यही चाहता है कि मैं अपने बच्चों की सारी ख्वाहिश पूरी करूं.
Right.
एंड उसमें कई बार लंबे भी हो जाते हैं. They'll borrow money to take kids for a foreign vacation. They'll borrow money to put their kids in the best of the school and college and so on and so forth. My feeling is that we have to share money, knowledge with our kids. It could be a dinner table conversation. This is our income, this is our expenses, and this is how we have to live, and this is how we have to save. Second, we need to tell our kids to appreciate money. You know, in our culture, many times it is said that money is not everything in life, money doesn't matter, don't run after money. That's all right, but make sure that you have made enough money before you make such statement, as Warren Buffett mentioned. So importance of money needs to be reinforced with the kids. Third, I think we have to tell them the principle that income minus expenses equal to savings is a wrong decision. Income minus savings equal to expenses is the right decision. Instead of going for a late night movie and having popcorn and cola, maybe we should go in matinee show. Instead of taking a cab, maybe we can just walk over or take a train.
Right.
Instead of having a pizza after dinner, maybe we can skip it. Good for health as well as money. Those little drops of water which you will save today without sacrificing your quality of life, I think over a period of time will inculcate the habit of savings and investment.
Okay, and because you're talking about savings, can you share what are the most effective investment and saving habits that millennials should look at when it comes to fostering wealth creation?
So there are three things which everyone has to follow: regular investment. Through systematic investment plan in equity mutual funds, we have seen how investors have got financial security. I had a colleague who did SIP for his driver for 54 months. 1,08,000 rupee invested through SIP in equity mutual fund. He was a driver. And when my colleague's transfer occurred from Delhi to Mumbai, the driver remained in Delhi, but he kept his investments.
Right.
After some time, when his daughter was getting married, he sent an invite card and requested my colleague to redeem the money and send it back to him. The money had grown to about 4 lakh, and money was available to driver in on third day.
Right.
Now, one getting this much money and getting it in 3 days, that was a big surprise to the driver. So even bottom of the pyramid people can gain financial security through regular investment. Second is long-term investment. We have seen so many people who have built wealth by simple long-term investment. I'm sharing this incidents about 20, 30 years back. One of my colleagues' father was just a clerk in a CA office, but he had developed the habit of picking up blue chip stocks, and he'll buy 1 share, 2 share, 5 shares. From his meager salary, he'll save something and invest. He observed how his partners and his firm's owners and partners were losing money by trading or by buying stocks on tips. He just focused on buying good companies. And in the 70s, courtesy George Fernandez, a lot of MNC companies were listed in India at a throwaway price. He picked many of them. When he retired as a head clerk in a CA firm, his wealth, thanks to that judicious investment, was more than many of that firm's partner.
Wow.
Now, that's the power of long-term investment. And the third thing is asset allocation. There are many people who, put all the money in equity because past performance is so good. Well, please don't put all eggs in one basket.
Right.
Please be diversified. You have to generate real return. There are many relatives of mine who will tell my mom, after markets have corrected and they have lost money, saying that, your son is working in a jugar khana or casino. Now I have to tell them that I am not working in casino, but you are using equity market as casino. Instead of thinking that this is a way to become partner with Tata's, Birla's, Ambani's, Adani's, Jindal's, you are using it as a casino and hence you are losing money.
Right.
So these three things of regular investment, long-term investment and asset allocation, they are key to becoming financially independent.
Okay, and what role do you see fiscal discipline playing in all of this, whether it is for your short-term goals, medium-term or long-term planning?
So investment is all about discipline and there are so many distractions. Now, I do understand that even if you are Rishi Vishwamitra, Menka can tempt you and move you. So there will be distractions in the market, but keep it on a very small part of your portfolio.
Right.
Link your investment with the goals. There's a friend of mine who does mutual fund distribution business, and every time a customer invests, he asks them to write the purpose of investment, daughter's education, son's wedding, my retirement, and so on and so forth. And whenever that guy comes to redeem money, he picks up that form and says, are you going to retire now? No, then don't redeem. Is your son getting married now? No, then don't redeem. Is your daughter going to need money to pay fees? No, then don't redeem. By linking investment objective to every investment, he has ensured that people remain invested for longer term.
Right.
India is a rising tide. Every boat will get lifted as long as I stay in the boat.
Right, definitely. Nilesh, coming to credit, credit is more widely accessible these days. I mean, you can get a credit card at the tap of a button. It's great, but it comes with its own set of pitfalls, How do you make sure, how does a millennial make sure that, you don't get into the trap of a buy now, pay later mentality for any and every decision that you make?
So this question is like asking Cheteshwar Pujara how to play T20. I have come up a very hard way in my life and hence I'm very uncomfortable with the borrowing. I do have a housing loan outstanding, but it's so low that maybe my liquid investment is more than the housing loan. I'm not comfortable with credit. And if you are comfortable with using credit card, you should use it very, very judiciously. My recommendation will be please never ever borrow on credit card because the rate of interests are very, very high. Second, if you have to take loan, please take it only for creating assets. Don't take loan for trading in market. That will be disaster. Third, if you are taking loan, then first focus on servicing. You need to have enough liquidity so that you will be able to service the loans and it should take into account stress scenario as well. So leverage is like a double-edged sword. You have to use it correctly. To me, I will say never ever take leverage, barring few circumstances like creating housing loan for buying house or something like that. But millennials are different. And to them, my request will be focus on the cost of taking credit. The purpose of credit should be to create assets, not to speculate. And always do a stress test scenario for servicing of credit. If you are leveraged and you are unable to service, there are consequences which you wouldn't like.
Right. Nilesh, you were talking about a lot of noise in the market, and these days there are a lot of investment fads out there. So many unregulated investment options that so-called social media influencers are also pushing for. So how do millennials, distinguish between what is an investment fad and what is a genuine investment opportunity out there?
There's no substitute to knowledge. And in the market, there is buyer beware scenario prevailing. SEBI has done fantastic regulatory environment for mutual funds and capital market. RBI has done for the bank. IRDA has done for the insurance, and PFRD has done for the pension. Now, between these four regulators, they have covered a large part of the market where participants have to behave in terms of their disclosure, in terms of their promises, in terms of the way they are managing. But outside of this regulatory domain is a slightly dark domain. It could be dabba trading, it could be Ponzi, it could be cryptos, it could be NFTs, it could be SIP with roadside jeweler. All these are dark areas where there is no regulatory supervision.
Right.
And 9 out of 10 people in those areas are likely to lose money. My recommendation to millennials will be please always operate in the regulatory domain. There is a regulator watching your interest. There's a regulator who has built regulations over decades to ensure that investors are protected. In fact, SEBI's one of the objective is investor protection. RBI's one of the objective is depositors protection. And hence, even if there is a lower return, operate within the regulatory domain. Don't venture outside this Lakshman Rekha.
Okay. To take forward from what you're saying, what are some of the investment opportunities available out there for millennials?
Well, they have whole range available. When I started my career, our investments were like bank deposits, public provident fund. Insurance was considered investment in those days, and that's it. Very few people had heard about mutual funds, direct stocks, bonds, debentures. Today, there is an entire range available. In mutual funds, you can park money overnight for one day, and you can invest for infinitely in many equity funds. There are debt funds, hybrid funds, there are thematic funds, sectoral funds, passive funds, active funds. If you want to go direct from bank deposits on one side, all the way up to stocks on the other side, there are options available. If you want to speculate, you have derivatives market where you can get leverage. Of course, leverage is double-edged sword. If you don't know how to use it well, it can hit you very badly. But there are multiple options available, and hence there is a need for an advisor or a hand which can help you. I think it's important. Like many a times, we trust a professional like a doctor for our health.
Right.
When it comes to financial health, we don't go and check out a professional.
Right.
We think, "मैं कर लूँगा." I think there is a need for a professional advisor, a mutual fund distributor, who can help you navigate through the volatilities of
Your
the
own
market.
half-baked knowledge can be very dangerous.
Absolutely. So give respect to finance. Seek a professional who can help you navigate the volatilities of the market, and then have the discipline to stay the course. When you go to doctor, you don't ask, "Doctor साहब मैं जिंदा रहना चाहूँगा." And if you keep me alive, then only I'll pay you. You take his advice. Same way, when you are seeking a professional in market, don't say कि मेरा पैसा double कर दो. That doesn't happen. Stick with this disciplined approach. Over a period of time, you will deliver better return than inflation. You will get real return. You will become financially independent.
Right. Moving to debt, managing debt is very crucial. And, what are some of the strategies that you would like to recommend to millennials so that they can regularly pay off their debt?
On the debt side, if you have taken, keep in mind what is your servicing capacity.
Right.
Now, if there are people whose salaries are going to go up over a period of time, then can you borrow money where the repayment is over a longer period of time and it's ballooning in the end? So low upfront, high ballooning kind of debt will be appropriate. If you are in a falling interest rate environment, a floating borrowing will be appropriate. If you are in a rising interest rate environment, a fixed borrowing will be appropriate. If you have bought, if you have borrowed money for buying an asset, then keep in mind that sometimes liquidating assets and paying back borrowing is an appropriate thing to do. So there is no one standard rule for debt, but my recommendation will be don't borrow more than what you can afford to service.
Right.
The consequences of defaulting are very, very harsh, and hence it's much better to defer some decision rather than fund it via borrowing without servicing ability.
Right, right. Nilesh, finally, technology has played a very, very important role in the way millennials' lives are shaped. So, how do you see fintech playing a role in terms of how it can help millennials manage their finances better?
The most important thing is communication. A fintech will be able to communicate with millennial in a language they'll be able to understand.
Right.
Most millennials don't want as much human touch and communication as a digital touch and communication. Fintechs will have that ability to build a bridge with millennials. They can provide them right product, they can provide them right advice, they can provide them right monitoring. And my feeling is that, like for the elderly generation, there is more of a physical human touch needed. For the millennials, it might be exactly opposite, and they'll probably prefer a digital touch, which this fintechs will be in a position to provide.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thank you for taking out time and for sharing your very valuable expert insights with us. To our listeners, remember that Amphi is here to help you make the most of your financial journey. Don't forget to keep tuning into Money Matters and more so that you can make smart investment decisions. Thank you for listening in.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.